Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome to the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners meeting for Monday, October 4th, 2021. My mom's birthday today, so happy birthday, Judy DeBone. But first item is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I guess I got a caller yet today.
I think you might. If it's your mother,
Yep.
mothers do remember.
Oh, no, I will.
My kid's birthday is Wednesday.
Oh, there you go. Birthday season.
My mom's is on the 19th
Very good.
Good
of this month.
Mm-hmm.
Good month.
Okay, so item number one, consideration of hazard mitigation acceptance or assistance pre-application with Midstate Electric. So Nathan Garibay is here, and then also possibly, I don't know if they're going to be online, Jim Anderson and Tom Weller. So Nathan, do you have status? There you go. Hello.
I don't. I know that the invitation was sent to Midstate. I can give you just a little bit of a briefing on the BRIC program and kind of where we stand. The deadline to submit a sub-application is January 17th, and we'll know by about mid-October in a couple weeks whether the initial pre-application was approved and will be considered for an actual application. So if Midstate can't make it today, we can always come back and revisit the issue.
Yeah, so and they mentioned they wanted to be in person, so maybe they're just running a few moments late because we're right at the top of the hour here. But how about if you give us an introduction to this and give us the scope of it? Because I got the call from Tom Weller, the engineer, said that they were looking at this program, and he said that, we found out we need to have a hazard mitigation plan approval or partnership or whatever it is. So can you put that in perspective with us, how we got here?
Yeah, so the BRIC program is a relatively new, I think this is the second or third year, and it's building resilient infrastructure and communities. It's part of the hazard mitigation grant kind of suite of funds available through FEMA. And we are required to have a current natural hazard mitigation plan, which I think we're on the agenda for October 13th to bring that before you. As well as City of Sisters, I think, on that date.
So let's get clear. Sorry. So we, the county, have a natural hazard mitigation plan, and we're going to update it. And that's how Midstate said, Deschutes County is the entity that has a plan that qualifies for their application. So that's how they got to call, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So because Midstate is a consumer-owned utility, I think we have to be the sub-applicant if the county agrees to move forward with Midstate's request. So yeah, we are updating. Actually, the update has been complete. It's been approved by FEMA pending adoption of the county and the 4 cities of the county. So we're starting that process this month with the intent to getting at least the county and the city updated by the end of October to support City of Sisters. They have a mitigation project that we don't want to jeopardize funding on. But however, that is a requirement for any of the hazard mitigation grant programs, including BRIC. So the BRIC program is kind of an evolution of these grant programs, and it's really specific to, here I've got a little bit of, basically it's around community, or it's capability and capacity building as well as mitigation. So, as we look around, we recognize that significant community lifelines such as power and communications and other utilities are critical to resilient communities. And I think that's the avenue in which Midstate is hoping to apply for these dollars to support upgrading their system to make it more resilient to both wildfire as well as other natural events.
So if Midstate isn't here right now, do you think we could or should proceed?
I think the intent of this meeting was really just to give you an update that the ask would be coming. I think we'll need to, there's quite a bit of work left to do. Midstate will have to help craft an application, and we can always bring that before, well, we'll have to bring that before the board prior to actually submitting that application. So I think really the intent of this was just to make the board aware of this opportunity, and that we're pursuing it, or that we're exploring it and trying to support Midstate in this effort. The one complication of this one is their system crosses 2 counties. So we have been in contact with the emergency manager of Klamath County, and there's been some really initial conversations on how we would manage that. But this is a pretty significant project that Midstate is hoping to successfully get funds for. And so there will be quite a bit of probably administrative work on the part of the sub-applicant. So we'll need to explore what those kind of demands would be and how we could continue to support them.
Okay, so yeah, this will be just for information. You have any questions?
Yeah. So Nathan, I think I'm tracking. These are FEMA dollars that are coming to the state and then being distributed through this the BRIC program, which is a sub-program of Hazard Mitigation Assistance Grant Program. Is that kind of the
Yes.
flow?
Yeah, it's kind of the umbrella. Yeah.
Yeah. So which state agency manages this? Is it OEM or is it some other office?
Yeah, this is managed through Oregon Office of Emergency Management and the State Hazard Mitigation Program.
That's good to know. Yeah, and one of the reasons I'm asking is I'm trying to connect the dots on the new bill, that the new wildfire bill that just passed the legislature, SB 762, included both I think some requirements, but also some funding for utilities to, I think the primary intention was to bury, put stuff underground that would otherwise be exposed, making it both a fire ignition risk, wires flapping around, but also more vulnerable to fire. So I was trying, at first, when I didn't, before I knew that this was a FEMA program, I was trying to put together, is this the SB 762 money hitting the ground, or is this something else? So I'm just wondering how those things might connect with each other. If there is going to be state funding for utilities to do kind of resiliency and wildfire hazard reduction work, whether there's opportunities to partner these dollars together in some way.
Yeah, I'm not fully briefed on the exact administration of these grants, but typically there are opportunities to match local and state dollars with federal dollars, as long as you're not matching with other federal dollars. And in some cases you can even do that. But I think these are pretty large projects, talking about, and I don't want to get into the technical aspect of it because I don't want to speak for Midstate. I don't know their system or frankly not qualified. But so I think these probably are pretty large projects for that state funding. So this might be an opportunity to get some resilience work done on through this program, and maybe capitalize on those other dollars for other projects.
Great, thank you. Yeah, my other question, I'm just curious about the fiber optic opportunities that are connected, might be connected with some of these projects, but that can wait, well, we can wait until we get Midstate here to give us the details on that.
So you say that,
I'm sorry, I don't know enough about any of this to speak on technical terms. So
yeah, well, and as I say, I
Okay,
just got a
don't
phone
worry.
call too, and they were just asking us, because they kind of traced it back to, oh, you're the one with the mitigation plan, So did you mention, Nathan, that the mitigation plan is going to be on our schedule this month? Adopted?
yeah, I think we made the agenda for the joint city assisters
Oh,
commissioner meeting, I believe.
okay.
On the 13th?
Okay, well, so then we'll just schedule this up for another follow-up to get real clear on what's going on here.
Yeah.
It is 2 projects. One of them's a transformer, and then the other one's transmission line efforts. But there's all kinds of good questions we can ask about, we optimizing the known, revenue out there, because I'm sure they'd be interested if there's other partner dollars in this too.
Yeah.
And they did have a booth, I think, at the county fair. I did talk to them there.
So I did call Commissioner in Klamath County, Chair Minty Morris, and mentioned it, so we made that connection, so they're board. And they also do serve Northern Lake County, but I think these projects are not located in Northern Lake. So Midstate Electric is Deschutes, maybe probably not part of Crook, but I know they go out to Lake County, Christmas Valley and Silver Lake and all that, that's Midstate territory too, and then Northern Klamath. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, let's just leave it as a information item for today. And as I say, Jim Anderson is the Midstate Electric Co-op General Manager / CEO, it says. So he's new on the job, the previous retirement. So we want to meet him at some point. And then Tom Weller is the engineer, and he's the one that called me just to introduce us to this project.
So, Nathan, you mentioned October 17th as the time Midstate will hear back whether they're approved to submit a full application. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the timeline is that we had to submit a pre-application by September 23rd, and basically that process just gives the state a hazard mitigation team kind of an idea of what kind of projects might be in the queue for this program. And so then they'll review those pre-applications, and which they have received. I did confirm that they did receive them and they were accepted. But then they will review those pre-applications, kind of against the standards of the grant as far as whether they should move on to the competitive process nationally. Oregon can submit. I don't think there's a limit, but we can submit as a state a large number of different projects. And so, but the state needs to kind of vet those and make sure that these are appropriate projects for the state to submit. Once the state team reviews those, they'll let us know, I believe by October 15th, when if the pre-application or the application will be moved to, yes, go ahead and submit an application. At that point, there's still no obligation on the part of the county to submit the application if for some reason it doesn't work out or the circumstances have changed or we just can't put together a good enough application. There's no penalty in doing that. So I think last year they had 9 pre-applications, and I think only 3 actually submitted applications. So we'll have that opportunity. Once that October 15th comes around, we have until January 17th, I believe, to submit the application. And so I believe my conversations with Tom at Midstate was to continue to gather information and start building that application package, because even if for whatever reason we don't submit this year, we want to be far ahead next year if for some reason we decide to wait and submit next year. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're a little bit of a holding pattern. So this is actually timely just to let you know what's going on, and that a formal request may come before you, but at this point we still don't know what that's going to look like.
So the business of the day is acknowledging a pre-application has been put in with Deschutes County's name on it. And that's for information. So there's action happening, but it may or may not be a project in the process.
And
Okay.
we'll hear sometime after October 15th whether things are moving ahead.
That's correct.
Got it. Thanks.
So as I say, Tom Weller called me, the engineer, and he's excited. This is big. It is partnership with it's as big as the BPA power lines, the other utilities, co-located, or the perimeter of the Midstate Electric service area interconnecting. He was talking, this is big. It's going to be transformational for resiliency, and if you notice, there's the PSPS operations and shedding of power to minimize outages. So that's the public safety power shutoff. So it really brings it to the next level. And I'm not speaking from a technology point of view, but I was just sharing his enthusiasm as the system engineer. So,
Good to know.
okay, thank you very much. It'll come around again.
All right. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Yes, you too.
Thank you, Nathan.
Item number 2, rescinding resolution ending fire restrictions on county-owned lands and unprotected lands.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Ed Keith, County Forester. Joining you today for your consideration of Resolution 2021-073. As you'll recall, on June 28th, you passed Resolution 2021-051 that enacted public use restrictions for unprotected lands, those lands that are outside of the structural fire districts and the Oregon Department of Forestry protection. And that went along with public use restrictions that also went into effect for the federal lands, so the U.S. Forest Service and BLM lands, as well as lands protected by the Oregon Department of Forestry. Several other structural districts not long after you enacted the unprotected lands restrictions also enacted restrictions, and those have been in place. By default, they were going to expire on the 15th. However, we have been blessed with some nice, cool, and a little bit wet weather. And all those agencies that I was just describing have since, as of October 1st, rescinded all those fire restrictions due to the rainfall and the moderating fire conditions that we've had here at the end of September. So before you, this resolution would basically just end those regulations effective upon passage instead of waiting until the 15th. I just would want to clarify that for anybody watching, that this does not necessarily open up open debris burning or burn barrels or pile burning or those sorts of things. This is just for the public use restrictions that were enacted, including like recreational campfires, off-road driving over dry grass, cutting and grinding of metal, those sorts of things, chainsaw use. Those are all included in the public use restriction. So, but just encourage, if you do pass this, encourage people to still check with their local fire departments if they're thinking about burning, because as of this time, burning has not been opened. But if we do receive some more moisture, I'd expect that to happen later on in October.
Great, thank you.
And Ed, can you remind me again, the unprotected lands within unincorporated Deschutes County, where is that? I mean, I know there's a chunk in North County.
Mackenzie Canyon, my neighbors.
Speaking generally, there's a couple different general locations that those are located in. One is an area between the Cloverdale Fire District and the Redmond Fire District in the north part of the county, commonly called the Lower Bridge, which is off of Lower Bridge Road. There's a block of private lands interspersed with BLM lands that are unprotected outside of the ODF district, outside of Cloverdale, and outside of the Redmond Fire District. There are a few scattered parcels east of Bend, just immediately east of Bend, and then farther out to the east part of the county. Most of the acreage is in the Brothers and Hampton area as you travel out Highway 20, the private lands that are in the east part of the county. Again, interspersed with BLM lands. And I would just clarify that even though we call those unprotected lands for the purposes of the public use restrictions, there is a rangeland fire protection district that covers the Brothers Hampton area. They don't have the statutory authority to enact any regulations, which is unlike, for example, the the federal land managers or ODF has that statutory authority. So in lieu of that, we've typically been enacting these restrictions so that we kind of have a full coverage across the entire county of public use restrictions instead of some areas that are covered and some that aren't.
Thank you for that reminder.
Great, so there's a proposed for resolution 2021-073.
I move approval of resolution number 2021-073, rescinding the declared state of emergency and removing the imposed public use restrictions on all unprotected wetlands within unincorporated Deschutes County and all lands owned by Deschutes County.
I'll second.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. So we'll refer to it as wildlands. You mentioned wetlands, but wildlands.
Is it wild? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
And one more question, Ed. So these are the areas that through SB 762 will become protected lands through processes which I still don't understand yet. Is that correct?
That is correct. The level of protection has yet to be defined, and that's to be defined by the state forester. That rulemaking process hasn't started yet because it had a longer timeline than some of the other requirements. The other requirements being things like required defensible space and building codes. Those are due by 2023, and the unprotected lands are due to require protection by 2026. And so I think to not have too many balls up in the air at the same time, they chose to defer that for about 12 months. And then they'll define that fire protection level of service. And that may or may not be, the bar may or may not be set at something similar to the current Rangeland Fire Protection Association. So the lands to the east protected by Brothers and Hampton may fit that requirement or may not, depending on how those rules are written. And then the lands that have no protection whatsoever, like McKenzie Canyon area, the Lower Bridge area, those would have to have some level of protection, which may or may not look like a rangeland fire protection district there.
Thank you.
Was that clear?
I think I'm following.
Yeah, no, I'm just joking around. Okay.
One other thing I did just want to mention, as we're on the subject of fire, is that it does look like as early as tomorrow, fuels managers on the Deschutes National Forest are planning 2 separate prescribed fires, and that news was coming out just this morning. One planned for the Camp Sherman area and one planned for Crescent Lake. So in Klamath and Jefferson County, but people may be seeing smoke plumes. And I know we're just barely kind of ramping down on fire season and hitting that narrow window of prescribed fire. So I just wanted to also help spread that word if people are seeing smoke plumes as early as tomorrow to the north or south of us.
Good to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much. Item number 3, consideration of board approval to apply for a birth certificate grant program. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Molly Wells-Darling, Program Manager from Health Services, and I am here to talk with the board about consideration of approval for applying for a birth certificate grant program through OHA. And what that is a grant program through House Bill 2402 that helps people who are homeless without funding apply for and receive their birth certificate without having to pay for that. So this money covers that, and then that in turn allows us to work with them to get certain entitlements and be able to apply for housing, et cetera, get ID, et cetera. So it's a pretty small grant. It's about $2,000 for biennium. And they break that out for each county based on how large the county is and how many homeless individuals they think may not have birth certificates. It is only for Oregon, people who were born in Oregon. And this program is facilitated currently through Colleen Thomas of our homeless outreach. We received this grant in 2018 and then again in 2019. So we're hoping to submit for this again.
Molly, how many people can you serve or help with $2,000? I mean, and I guess another question would be, of the within the houseless population, how many people don't have access to their birth certificate?
Yeah, so it's $25 to get your birth certificate. So actually, with that 2,000, we can help quite a few. We haven't had a ton over the last year that we have had to utilize that funding for. So we haven't actually completely used up that funding, but we do think that funding will be enough to help us cover that. And there are CBOs out there who also, I understand from Colleen, have some money through the state for this as well.
Great. Good to know.
Okay. So Commissioner Darrell know exactly how many it serves.
I will, won't I? Yes. Definitely with my little calculator. So, interesting. So did we not have this last year available, Molly?
We did.
We did have
We've
it.
had it since 2018.
Okay, and you just said there's like a carryover or something?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And we only use the funds for the application fee. We don't. These funds don't support our staff time spent working with people to make them aware of the opportunity, fill out their applications, things like that.
Right. We solely use this for the application fee. We do plan on advertising this a little bit more within the homeless community, just given that we haven't used it as much as we could over the past year. So that will be our plan this year as well, especially with a number of the programs that are starting up.
Right. It makes me think a little bit about veteran services, and when we talk about our veterans office, they keep really close track of and are very proud of, because this office exists or because this service exists, we are able to connect people with benefits. And this is how much, this is essentially how much federal money is coming into our community because we worked with these veterans and we're able to, get them their benefits. Like, do you have any kind of a sense of proportion or just, sense of scale of, how much benefits are you able to help people get if they get their birth certificate, or if they get if they can get a copy of their birth certificate?
Yeah, I don't have a sense of the scale. I can certainly find that out for you, but I can say that oftentimes if you don't have a birth certificate, you can't even get ID, right? And you need ID to get so many other entitlements and to be able to apply for housing, and everything goes from there. So this is really the starting juncture of being able to get anything in terms of entitlements, or hopefully down the road, ultimately housing.
Got it. Okay.
Or a sense of identity, be able to plug yourself back into the economy and get a, market rate housing and a great job working hard and making money.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so is there a move for approval for this application?
I move approval of the birth certificate grant program application.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Molly.
At this time, item number 4. This is House Bill 3295, marijuana tax revenue. Cannabis Advisory Panel, kind of see how close we can be to bringing it on home.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Peter Gutowski, Planning Manager. I'm here today to continue to work with the board to consider appointing members on the Cannabis Advisory Panel. And you'll see in your packet that I've also updated the draft order, which would perfect the appointment. There's a draft charter as well to reflect the conversations that happened last week. And then I also introduced a draft meeting agenda. At your last meeting, the board did acknowledge October 18th as the first meeting date for the Cannabis Advisory Panel, starting at 6 o'clock. So if it's, Mr. Chairman, I turn it over to you if you want to go through table one again. I know when we last spoke, the board was interested in reaching out to certain members of the public, or at least looking at the applications a little bit more thoroughly, as well as reaching out to marijuana retail licensees in the rural county. So admittedly, there's some information, there's some documents that would be helpful to get direction on today so that we can be in a position to prepare the packet, send it out next week, to have a constructive first meeting on the 18th. But happy to facilitate going through the table or going through the requisite documents. But I turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, for how you'd like to proceed.
Sure. Well, let's start with table one, and this is open for all of us just to kind of work through. So table one, a decision about a person who holds license for retail.
Yeah, I have some more information to share. So I had a chance to speak to both Matt Hurt and Joe Stapleton. They are both interested in serving on the panel, and they both have a history in the industry and a lot of valuable perspective and experience to offer. We're both really interested in kind of this the discussions that would happen on this panel with the people who would be involved. They were really excited that there would be this coming together of these different perspectives and wanted to participate in the discussions. So I don't have a really good basis to choose between these two. I'm somewhat if it comes down to selecting just one, I would somewhat be inclined to just flip a coin. But I would also say that if we are if these kind of slots are sort of a baseline minimum and we can consider making additional appointments, we could also consider appointing both of them to the panel. One additional piece of information which could make us lean one way versus another is that Matt Hurt, so he's an employee of a business that has a dispensary in the Sun River area, but Matt does not live in Deschutes County himself. His company is, they have 5 retail operations around the state, and he is not, he lives in Troutdale himself. So if we wanted someone who is here as a regular community member as well as representing a certain kinds of licensee, then that would make us lean toward.
Give you a little bit of guidance.
Make us lean towards Joe, but otherwise, that they were both interested.
Any thoughts, Commissioner?
Then we should ask Joseph to be on it. If he lives in Troutdale, I think it's important to have someone from Deschutes County on it.
So one appointment instead of
Right.
2.
And then if it ends up Joseph isn't in a position, then we know we have someone as a backup. But I do think it's good to have someone that's actually a resident of Deschutes County.
One other thing I mentioned to Matt was that at least it's my impression that these will be open public meetings. So even if if he's not a appointed panel member, he can show up certainly and attend, make public comment.
Yeah.
And he said he could schedule, he would even if he was appointed, he would schedule, quarterly to come and spend time at the Sun River retail location and attend the meeting. But he could also do that as a visiting member of the public as well.
And I'm comfortable with that. So I would lean towards one appointment, Joseph Stapleton. And, as I say, Matt Hurt could definitely, get anybody's ear and provide any topic that needs to be discussed and get it injected pretty quick if there's something that you really wanted to be discussed. So are you comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable with that.
So there you go. So one clarity item is going to be Joseph Stapleton representing retail licenses.
Great, thank you, Commissioners. To complete Table 1, I would draw your attention to page 2 and a member of the public. There's 6 applicants or candidates for your consideration.
So I have not had time to go, kind of really do my homework going down each one of these. I could select a couple names out of here that I'm maybe comfortable with, but as I say, I haven't really balanced all the names. That's going to be the hard part here. But if anybody has more clarity.
Well, I think we all got a copy of the letter from Liz Lodashinsky, and she was actually at the meeting the other day. I think she would bring great balance to the community. She is a resident of Deschutes County, and I just think balance is always good. And I thought that Mary Fleischman was the other candidate that I thought would bring some balance to the group. So it's always good to have balance.
So then we're back in the same spot. So we're more than one here or not? So
Well,
I would support.
there's 6 applicants.
yeah.
I would support at least 2, and actually, I would encourage 3
Okay, yeah,
public
so that's
members.
the first kind of step there, okay. So what about those 2 names?
I would be comfortable with those 2, and I do think that Andrew Assen it would be another really good person to include because he has coming from the Soil and Water Conservation District, he'll have the perspective on essentially production production techniques and how that affects our land and water.
So then another thought process is if we look at a even or odd number, maybe this would be valuable right now. This is going to be the last for the appointments. So I support 2, maybe 3. So I guess that's where I'm at. So is 2 going to be an odd number or is 3 going to be an odd number when we add them all up? Yeah. We can look at that real quick.
2 would be odd, I guess, if you don't count us.
Keep in mind, Commissioners, this is an advisory body, so the tie vote is less of an issue than it would be if they were something more than
Well, just-
advisory.
Right.
I'm just, yeah.
Just putting that out there.
I just think board says 3, 5, or 7, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but it is true. I mean, I hope if we get recommendations from this body and there's 2 opinions, a majority and a minority opinion, I hope we get them both.
Yeah.
And we get to we get to understand the thought process behind each perspective.
And
Don't forget our fire group last year. We had 2 groups we had 2 separate opinions on that group. I think, wasn't it like 13 people or something on that board? I mean, it was very interesting. There was 2 opinions, but 2 or 3 I think is fine.
Well, and as I say, some are going to be staff and some are going to be public members, so there'll be different reasons to really get engaged with the vote or not, too. And hopefully, it's not that complicated. Let's just lay the topics out and define them as the group sees them, because it's just like legal counsel mentioned,
honestly,
it's advisory.
I would be surprised if Kyle Gorman, as
Yeah.
as an
Yeah, you can see
OWRD employee, was able to vote on anything.
Yeah, I can see it.
So, which would then, to get an odd number, then we would want 3. Assuming that the board of the commissioner or commissioners
Yeah, and really,
liaison with this group are not voting members.
well, I mean, I agree. That's not a reason to make the decision here. I was just throwing it out, so. Well, I'm supportive with Liz Lodashinsky and Andrew Asen and possibly one more, I guess, is where I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, Mary Fleischman, I think that's a really important perspective to have. You're someone who understands youth substance abuse and how to help the youth get off, break off of that path, early intervention, so that they don't become lifelong substance abusers. I think that's an extremely helpful perspective to have on this panel.
So that's why I brought her up. So I'd like to see her on it too, and especially since she thought enough to apply for it.
So those three names supported then, as I say, that's.
Do we need a motion? Or
Oh, we can, well, the whole
can we
package.
just all
in the-
agree on it?
Yeah, the whole package in the end. Okay,
Okay.
so we've selected three names for the member of the public applications: Andrew Asen, Mary Fleischman, and Liz Latachinsky.
And what I would, if I may, Mr. Chairman, what I would respectfully ask permission to do is come back on Wednesday. I'll update the draft order with these names, and then Wednesday you could formally
That would be-
nominate and
Oh, yeah.
affirm these positions. If it's appropriate, what I'd like to do now is kind of walk you through the draft order for feedback, and then do the same thing for the charter, and then the same thing for the agenda. Again, once I get your direction, I can fill in those loose ends. But if that's a good time, I would turn your attention to the order. A couple things that I did based on the last week's conversation is, obviously, I'll update section 1 to reflect the candidates that you just discussed this afternoon. Wanted to notice, just put your attention to section 2. I acknowledge that the board's role on the panel is as an ex officio member, and this is in alignment with House Bill 3295. This panel's providing recommendations to the board. So I think there was an acknowledgement there that the board was really just there as a, as an observer and whatnot. But you certainly can define the role of ex officio. In terms of representation by the county commission, the three of you get to choose who you want to represent the Board of County Commissioners. And I just noted that representation will be determined on an annual basis to give the board maximum flexibility. And then to section 3, there was a discussion about, well, I acknowledge two things in section 3. One is the Board of County Commissioners, I put you in position to appoint and reappoint the candidates. And then the commission mentioned staggering terms, 2 to 3 years. So I just took some liberties to start doing that. If you want to provide I can take the entire list and just, half of them approximately will have a 2-year term. The other half, or if there's an odd number, there'll be 5 or 6 will have one 2-year term. The other half will be the 3-year term, if that's appropriate. So I'll pause there just to make sure I'm not over my skis, and I just want to make sure I'm representing how you want this order to structure for the.
So, so let's acknowledge section 1. Do we want to have our names as Board of Commissioners in there by name, or maybe another just section saying, sitting commissioners are ex officio members? Could make it kind of more generic.
I would support that.
So then we don't, yeah.
I didn't want to tie one board term to, knowing that years, some years
But
are election years, other years.
Yeah. But I'm just seeing it as the kind of this advisory panel are the members of the community, and then, the sitting commissioners is just kind of a different.
Yeah, I mean, we're liaison to this group, but not necessarily, I don't necessarily see us as panel members either.
Great.
And it'd be good to put it in writing, existing Board of Commissioners may or may not attend, or however we want to write it, to be ex officio members, and, this and I'm sure it says this is an advisory to the board. Just so everybody knows, when you go back and read it, you're like, oh, yeah, commissioners may be there, but this is the community's panel to define.
And I can, if it's helpful, orders are somewhat legalistic, but in the charter, I can further flesh that out again, using the language that you just described.
Okay.
But it sounds like you would like section 2 to further flesh the fact that you're kind of an ex officio liaison role.
Well, yeah, maybe just right there, yeah, so section 2, board, as I say, one or more members of the board may represent, or however you want to even say it.
Or if that's information that's better to put in a charter and it doesn't really fit with a, kind of the order, the legislative stuff, we could just leave.
Yeah.
I mean, we could hold it for the charter. I mean, depending, and
I'll lean on.
I'll look to Dave to a degree on this as well. I mean, can we capture that kind of role and relationship in the order, or should we save that for the operating charter?
It's in the charter better,
Okay,
absolutely.
So just drop the 3 names of the commissioners out of section 1.
sounds good.
You support it, Commissioner?
Of course,
Okay, yeah.
makes a lot of
We're on the
sense.
same page, okay, good.
Great, thanks for that direction.
And then for section 3, just to have a shot at it, now we have 3 names of the public. Kind of split them in half and then flip a coin if there's an odd number there and put the numbers out.
Marijuana retail licensee, so I'll add those 4 names. No, they're already there. So I'll fill in section 2. Yep, great. Can I just take a moment just to walk you through the Cannabis Advisory Panel charter, unless I think we
Sure.
covered.
Yeah, good.
So just letting anyone, I guess the screen's off, but just for your knowledge, I'll confirm the number of members on the panel. You've already described the terms. Thank you. I guess the piece that I just want to bring to your attention on page 2, section 4, just want to acknowledge that the board, you will establish or you'll delegate that obligation to staff about creating the quarterly meeting agendas. So, I suspect staff will coordinate with you with ample time before the forthcoming meeting, just to at least let you know what the agendas are. But we wanted to,
So is that leaving it wide open where if it, because there was a discussion about having this more administration, front office committee opposed to land use and planning's responsibility? Is that
I wasn't trying
anything to do with that?
in terms of who's staffing, I mean, that
Yeah.
will eventually be a discussion. I just wanted to make sure, I think we want clarity in terms of who's producing the agenda and whether, in this attempt, it was the board will do it or you'll delegate, and we don't describe who you'll delegate to, but that was, we eventually have to clarify who's going to be doing that. So I thought a little bit of ambiguity was probably better than more specificity at this stage, but.
Well, because the first agenda is going to be beginning of meeting and then adjourn, and then we'll, do what's statutorily required. But it'll come up with the topics to be discussed. We'll go quarterly too. There may be some things that'll pop up like, well, let's make sure to talk about that next time. So the agendas will
Okay.
come together. So, yeah, the words are fine here.
Okay. Membership, we've talked about. I think the only other piece was, there was some conversation about allowing, giving the Cannabis Advisory Panel the ability to select a chairperson. So that's noted on page 3 of the charter, and I'm just asking if that's the will of the board, if you want to do that. I mean, to my knowledge, there's no obligation to set aside time to appoint a chair, but it's entirely your discretion.
Well, and I think of this being just a little bit flexible, but going into it with words like this is probably appropriate, because that defines that this group, other than the Board of Commissioners, has the authority for somebody to kind of run the meeting. So that's the starting point. And then if it's not flowing well, we'll go from there.
I mean, I could see, a staff facilitator kind of really pretty actively facilitating this group, in which case the role of a chair would not be as great. But I could also see, there being value in having a chair, and so
Well, and then, the authority. So I think of the Planning Commission, when you get on the planning commission, you learn that really the planning commission is, the agenda is set by the planning director about what the topics are, what the work plan is, what the flow of information needs to happen, decisions over a year. So I do kind of see it like that, as in, because if you had a chairperson saying, hey, tonight we're talking about this, it could go anywhere.
Right.
So I mean, I do support
Okay.
putting direction to it from the will of the committee, which is the board and with staff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so, clarifying those roles, we may or may not have a chair, but, the meetings will be, who's gonna run the meetings and, who's gonna set the agendas, and, those are definitely
Well,
important.
so yeah, maybe it's just good words to say, and so somebody can be the chair, but agendas shall be created with, Board of Commissioners in
Input from the
partnership
board,
with
yeah.
staff.
Yeah,
Maybe that's the way to close the loop on that.
sounds good.
So does that make sense then? So somebody can be the chair, not a problem. Anybody will be able to say their piece. But yeah, what ends up on the agenda quarterly will be reviewed either by the board or at least by staff.
Perfect.
Peter, on your timeline for the Zoom link for the meeting,
The agenda, the draft?
yes.
Yeah.
Looking at that, I would think maybe it would be nice to have like a check-in from each member before, and then we say, okay, we really do need a chair for this group. So when everybody has been introduced, and, then maybe it would be obvious who should be
Okay.
the chair.
So,
I mean,
so
maybe,
basically put the selection of, or the discussion of electing a chair as number 5. I have it as number 6. But I think you're acknowledging there's going to be some synergy with those introductions. Okay, happy to,
it might be kind of nicer that way.
that's great. I wanted to, that's the other piece, the last piece of just making sure the board was comfortable with this draft agenda. I can certainly move the election of a chair, the consideration of a chair, to number 5. I tried to keep this is a robust agenda, but tried to acknowledge a 2-hour set of agenda items. And then, you'll see I have a comment box there. The overview of the agenda is obviously, whether it takes 5 minutes, that's probably a bit of a stretch. But I didn't know, commissioners, if in your role, at least for the first meeting, if you wanted to facilitate, kind of go through the agenda topics, certainly Community Development Department can do it. I can look at County Administrator. I just want to make sure we're in sync as we go through these requisite items.
So yeah, to get through the first 4 items before we select a chair, you're referring to.
Commissioner Adair was acknowledging moving up the chair. One of the questions I had is, who do you want to facilitate the meeting?
Yeah.
And I didn't want, there's Community Development Department can certainly do it. I've certainly plan on attending and can be the conductor, but I didn't know, because it's the first meeting, if the board wanted to undertake that role. Certainly, administration could take up that role. I just didn't want to be presumptuous and ensure that when we are at that meeting, that it's synchronized and well executed. So that,
Yeah, no, I really like the idea of kind of creating expectations and sort of, establishing roles very early on. I think it would be nice for the commissioners to be able to, kind of say a few things at the beginning of the meeting, but not to facilitate the meeting not for us to try to facilitate the meeting ourselves.
Great.
If we want to have long-term, staff play a facilitation role for this group, then I think it is a good idea to establish that right from the first meetings, so people kind of get in the groove of it. That the question of whether we would assign CDD staff or admin staff or other staff to, in that facilitator coordinating role long term. I'm open on it. In my opinion, I do think that if time, place, and manner, if we are leaving the time, place, and manner issues in the past, then I don't think it makes as much sense to use CDD, or take up CDD capacity, with this panel.
And Commissioners, I was not, my role of asking that question was not to bring up this question now, although you certainly can have that. I was just more, I wanted to acknowledge, I wanted to put a person's name there to facilitate, just so we can be orchestrated. So if I didn't, there was no intention of having this broader conversation of who staffs the
That's why I didn't start there.
Yeah,
Peter.
okay.
I started with the idea that, we're establishing roles. And I think it's nice for the group if you establish roles in the first meeting and then those continue.
Oh, I was wondering, Peter, have we heard from Representative Kropp and Zika that they can both attend that meeting that night?
I have, so last week, as soon as you provided the direction that you wanted the meeting on the 16th, on the 18th, I notified everybody to save the date. And so I sent both state representatives an email. I have not heard back, but I will reach out again today just to reinforce that. As I mentioned earlier, maybe it was last week, they, because we've been conversing about this for a few months now, they gave me assurance that they could attend that week in October. So I will certainly follow up, Commissioner Adair, and I presume that they will be in attendance.
Well, it would be nice to have them at
Yeah.
the meeting, I would think, so I just was wondering.
And just on that note, it seemed like that was appropriate to have them as in the number 2 spot after the
Yeah.
commission welcomes everybody and offers their opening remarks. It seems like from a structural standpoint, they would be well served to be following you. Great.
So, I think you could facilitate the meeting. I think, you're in a great spot to be able to do that.
Great. I'll put my
Your
name
name
down and facilitate to keep us
At
on
least we'll
task.
know that it's a staff facilitator, even if we do transition it out of community development.
Thank you. And Commissioner, I think all my questions have been answered. I appreciate you going through this and giving the requisite direction. I'll work with, I'll certainly let Nick know, but this will be under other items. I'll coordinate with Sharon Keith for Wednesday, so you'll have the draft order. I don't think I need to bring back the charter, but I'll work with legal or run it by legal one more time, but
So,
for your consideration.
on the agenda, is there going to be a moment where people can say, I've been waiting to let the world know that we need to talk about this? So board members providing topics for future agendas, I guess, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I had it as it's a public meeting and it's a review body. So I had public comments as number 7, to the extent that there was any interest or members of the public to offer.
And I'm referring to committee members, as in if we do a introduction, check in with advisory panel members, is what do you want to accomplish the moment you're laying down the topics that are, out there? I guess that's for clarity.
As we give people a chance to introduce themselves, it seems.
I thought it was an ice-breaking question. What they hope to achieve. It might build on what the next quarterly agenda could look like.
So that's for clarity. So it's not at a different time. So maybe highlight that this is where we lay down the topics. I'm just thinking, anything's go here, put out the topics and then talk about creating the next agenda. But just for panel members to know.
Okay. And as the board's aware of, the House Bill 3295 does have those three discrete areas. I presume, this is really for table setting. Legal counsel will provide, an overview of public meetings, etiquette and ethics and whatnot. But you'll really have an opportunity to get into the direction from that legislation and at the next meeting in January to start building on, I think, a structure of the type of agenda topics this panel will see.
So what about on the last item, next steps, agenda and date for the next meeting? So I'm just thinking those placeholders for topics that may not even be appropriate for this domain, but, I could see different things coming up. They're like, well, that's not really the intention of this panel, but, let's put it in the parking lot, that kind of thing. So where does that happen? So, maybe it's at the number 8 agenda discussion. Just acknowledging parking lot items, things that may or may not be in the domain of this committee.
And that, you bring up a good point, Mr. Chairman, in that, if this meeting agenda serves as the beginning of a template, the Board of County Commissioners is conceptualizing quarterly meetings, 2 hours in length, and it's going to be paramount that there's ample time to discuss various topics related to House Bill 3295 and even some that may be tangential. So I can certainly, as the facilitator, kind of acknowledge this as a working framework and using agenda item number 4 as kind of a springboard to begin. If there are other issues that
just
are
stuff
related
that's
to bring up, it doesn't mean they'll be immediately incorporated in the next agenda, but it's going to be important to, as you said, have a parking lot that can be drawn upon. So, no, I really appreciate this. We're kind of casting the mold together here. So that's great.
Okay. All right, so then it'll be kind of in a finalized form for Wednesday this week.
I'll bring back the order. Unless I can certainly bring back a final charter. But I think I've
Order's
got
fine.
enough direction from you to do that. So I'll just work with legal on a final version of the order, and then I'll let those individuals today know. Again, nothing's been formalized, but I'll let them hold the date, and I'll reach out to the state representatives. So that's great. I really appreciate it. This is very helpful.
And Peter, the newly appointed members, they'll get both the agenda and the charter in advance of the meeting.
At least, probably a cover memorandum from staff. I'm presuming, I'm looking at Dave, but I think Adam Smith provided the last public meetings kind of preparation when we had the Marijuana Advisory Committee. But Dave, I don't know if was that you?
He wasn't here then.
Oh, he wasn't. Well, in any event, I don't know if there might be some public meeting information just to be aware of. So I'll work with legal counsel. We may also have as staff have some public meeting information, just so people have an understanding of kind of the do's and don'ts. So it'll be several pages in length, and the goal would be to get that out by no later than a week from today, so they have it a week in advance.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you for all the work on this.
So that was it for our published agenda. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge Nick Lelak. Congratulations. You've been through 4 agenda items as the county administrator.
Thank you, Commissioners. It's great to be here.
Are there any other items that you're bringing to us?
We do. Whitney Hale and I both have letters, and I'll turn it over to Whitney, if I may, first.
Thank you, Commissioners. For the record, Whitney Hale, Communications Director. I have 2 draft letters for the board's consideration. One is a follow-up stemming from your conversation last week regarding allocation of ARPA funds, and the second is related to the Upper Deschutes River Communities Grant application. So I'm happy to share both of those with the board for visibility now.
Sure. I think I have one of them. And then also, DLCD about possible interim housing. Is that another one for today?
Yes, about the interim housing rules?
Yes.
Yes, I think this might be one of the letters that Whitney has.
Maybe it was just terminology then, yeah.
You've got that one already.
Oh, thanks.
So just to set the table a little bit, and I can start with the grant application, it looks like UDRC is applying for a grant from the Mabel Clark McDonald Fund. And so this is a draft letter of support for that grant application.
Yeah, I think Jerry Hubbard pinged all of us with this request. I asked Whitney to work with Ed and generate a letter. Jerry had said that he was hoping to get a letter by Wednesday, so
And it's only Monday.
it's only Monday.
So yeah, Upper Deschutes River Coalition Communities, UDRC, has been a partner for a long time, and I do support the words in this letter as it reads. It's interesting, so UDRC has always been kind of the footprint of one of the community wildfire protection plans in Deschutes County. So that's how it kind of got its identity, was the Upper Deschutes River Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And it really has expanded and offered some of this management of grants to homeowners in all of southern Deschutes County and around Sun River and south. So it's really been a great, the group has been a wonderful partner in all these efforts, so I'm supportive. So this would be from the board to Clark Monroe of the Mabel Clark McDonald Fund. Is there a motion then?
Yeah, so there's that one word that Commissioner Dumont just corrected. I move.
No, I think they're calling themselves Upper Deschutes River Communities now.
Really?
Yeah.
I stumbled there as well.
No, they have changed it to that.
Yeah.
I'm programmed to say coalition, but it is communities now. They changed it.
Sorry.
No, it's correct.
Correction.
Yep.
With a C, it's just a different C word.
Yeah, it's same
Correction
C.
corrected.
Yep.
I move approval of this letter.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
And then the second letter that you have in draft form in front of you is a little bit of a follow-up on your ARPA allocation from last week with respect to the funding for the Bethlehem Inns renovations of the Greenway Motel. So there was board discussion about this item
Yeah.
last Wednesday, and this is just a follow-up draft.
So I see this as a letter of, kind of partnership acknowledgement. We're all managing or dealing with or trying to figure out what the future is for kind of homeless issues of Central Oregon. Redmond has specific issues, but it is an issue that we're struggling with. I don't see it as an ARPA letter specifically. I think it's, I'm looking at the second paragraph, so we understand your council is currently evaluating and prioritizing ARPA investments. I might just say investments. You just keep it generic. So I was talking to one of the counselors, and, the one-time dollars is one part of it, but it's I think the conversation is going to be, what's the ongoing commitment? And that's the hard part that I think that, some of them are stumbling over, the fact that no matter what dollar goes out the door now, what is the expectation in the future? So I'm just saying that was a phone call, nothing official, but that was just some information.
I would definitely take out ARPA and just put investments. Oh.
You support that?
I'm okay with that being broader. I guess I'm wondering if we actually want to make it your council is currently evaluating a number of priorities and investments.
Yeah, that's fine, yep.
Because it's not just about money, it's about, kind of, is this,
Oh,
you know, I think that the fundamental question is, is this the city's job or is it not? And, so,
well, and as I say, even if X dollars go out the door today, what's the expectation in the future? That's the tricky part, for some,
No, it's truly the, looking ahead, how much is this going to cost? And where are we going to pay for that from?
right. So is that an okay rephrasing, evaluating a number of priorities and investments? Or priorities and potential investments, or?
Yeah, anything, that's fine. So then, that paragraph also finishes with, as we work together towards recovery. I think the definition of what are we working towards is going to be, that's the topic of the day. What does recovery look like? Everybody has the opportunity for cost-effective housing. I guess I'm working, whatever the terms are.
Opportunity, resiliency.
But yeah, recovered. We're not going back to recovery. I guess I just kind of see it like that. We're going towards a bright future, or the
Especially
good
if
stuff,
we're
whatever
not-
that is.
Especially if we're not talking specifically about ARPA,
Right,
then we don't have to
yeah.
refer to recoveries.
Yeah, maybe it's just working together towards good stuff, bright future, or whatever. The culture of Central Oregon's
Bright-
housing,
bright
something future.
Right future, that sounds great.
Yeah, yeah.
A bright future, okay.
Well, yeah,
Or,
just something positive.
I think we can work with that.
I mean, we could.
Well, AA, it sounds like we're working on AA and, recovery.
Yeah, with recovery is.
I do think that words like resiliency are really.
Oh yeah, well, as I say, something. Yeah.
I mean, you could throw that one in there.
See, all kinds of good words. But yeah, something other than recovery at this point.
Bright future, bright, resilient future with opportunity for everyone.
Oh, boy, it's getting better every moment.
Okay.
Well, and we could look at a final version. So then the next paragraph talks about particularly Oasis Village. So I just refer to the fact that Oasis Village is, I think it needs to be defined a little bit better, as in, it's kind of a, the definition of what an investment is the tricky part right now. Give us money, we're gonna go do this thing, or here's this thing that we're gonna do, will you please give us money? It's like who's leading and who's following, or who's gonna take the first step. So this is, I don't know, I just, when I read that.
Jericho Road has put quite a lot of research and planning into this. I mean, I don't think that they're just waving around a vague concept at this point. I mean, I think they have some.
Well, I don't know what that is then.
Well,
I mean, I've seen some PowerPoint slide presentations and some graphics put together, but
I mean, they've built. I don't know if I would call it a business plan, but I mean, they have built a very well thought out, in my opinion, document on what they want to do and how they would do it. So,
and how much public investment there is. So I guess
mean,
I don't, if,
that's
I don't
why
have that in front of me.
That's why they have, that's why they're asking for very specific amounts of money, because they've they have a budget.
Yeah, so I don't have it. Maybe I've seen it, but I don't know what version of what is what you'd be referring to right now. So, as I say, I'm hesitant to think, oh, we'll just go invest in that thing that they're talking about. That's what it sounds like from my point of view right now. I don't know what that thing is. I mean, I want to, let's be partners in this. We got, it's a tough situation. Let's figure it out together. Those are the messages I'd like to send. But I wouldn't.
I mean, this is not. I mean, the way that this sentence is written, it's not a. It's not like we're asking them to approve a specific site right now. I mean, it's fairly broad. You know, it's asking for, you know, fairly broad, looking towards something that is promising, but maybe not everybody knows all the details about yet, and asking them to lean into it. So I don't feel like the level of specific knowledge that you'd like to have, and which Jericho Road should provide you, is completely necessary to make a kind of broad supportive statement like this.
Actually, I actually feel better if you just left out particularly those like the Oasis Village project. Just, I think that's too specific for this, for me personally, for this letter. I don't want to say, oh yeah, you got to do this. But, okay, so what are the shelter options?
Without that.
I would really like them to consider, you know, to give the Oasis Village project serious consideration. And if I'm tracking correctly, you know, if I'm tracking correctly, they will specifically talk about Oasis Village tomorrow. So, I mean, it sure would be nice for us to get this letter to them by, you know, before they deliberate on that topic.
So, as I say, I'm all in for Oasis Village, but it's the version that I think I know. And if you're referring to some piece of paper somewhere, which is the version that somebody's asking for money, I don't know that I've seen that. So there's no way I'm going to say, go invest in that thing that I don't know specifics about. And, you know, maybe you've done the
What?
homeless coalition work, that maybe there's information I don't have that you have.
No, I mean, I'm under the impression that Oasis Village, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, when we have reviewed the Oasis Village project in the past, this business plan or business plan-like document was referenced, and it, you know, that people said it was available, and yeah, I don't think that there's anything in there that is different than what you have heard about in, you know, in panel presentations and things like that. I just think it may contain more of the details that I thought you were saying you wanted to know about.
Yeah, so now I don't know what, I guess I need, you know, so if we were going to say, please invest in Oasis Village, you know, the business plan as presented on some date by Jericho Road.
I mean, so can we
I don't
say
have that
something, can we say something like, you know, can you please give serious consideration? Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe that's the right phrasing. Yeah, please give serious consideration, you know, dig into the details of this project that are available,
Well-
to the extent that you know, that kind of homework is needed to feel comfortable with making an investment or with supporting a project.
So I like supporting a project because there's going to be land use associated with it, the ownership of land or lease or whatever it's going to be, utility connection, system development charges. You know, are we really asking for people not to live somewhere else by doing an Oasis Village project? Remember, I asked that to the city of Bend. I said, oh, so are we going to be able to ask people not to sleep under the no camping sign? And there was no response there. So what are we asking people to do? Because if we just create resources, but we don't ask people not to be somewhere else, and I'm referring to east side of Redmond right now.
Well, I'm pretty sure that City Legal Counsel has walked the Redmond City Council through what kind of facilities do need to be developed in order to tell people that they cannot camp in other public locations,
And I don't have that
including
information.
things such as this, which are, you know,
Yeah.
low barrier shelter opportunities.
And I don't have that information.
That's
either.
that's basically the guiding principle. As important and as valuable as the Bethlehem Inn project is, and I'm really excited about that. That is a high barrier shelter, and having the Bethlehem Inn, which the city of Redmond did not invest in anyway, but having the Bethlehem Inn does not give them the opportunity to say, there is a low barrier shelter available here, so you're not allowed to be on 17th Street or something like that.
Well, and that's what I would like to put on writing.
Oasis Village and Shepherd's House, those are the low barrier shelter opportunities that enable
Yeah.
that kind of.
Maybe that's the terminology we need to use. Let's figure out what a low barrier shelter is and be partners in it. Maybe that's all we need to say here.
Well, again,
Yeah, you could just
the
add that.
Redmond City Council is going to consider specifically ARPA funds for Oasis Village tomorrow. And so if we don't communicate,
But I'm sitting
They-
here at a
they-
public meeting as a Board of Commissioners, and you're a commissioner also.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking me to put a letter in writing that says that somebody that I've heard of, and I've studied it, but nobody's explained to me that they're ready. So I can't sign a piece of paper that says, Oasis Village is ready for investment. You should do that. I can't even get there, not even close.
I think that if.
Why would I sign something like that?
I think that.
I'm not close either, so that's two of us.
I think that they are ready, and I think if you do not
And
understand
I want
that
them to
they-
be ready. I'm
and
not
if you
saying
don't
they're
understand that they're ready, then it's not because that information is not available.
Well, but this is interesting, though, because remember, we talked about, okay, we did Bethlehem in investment, and you said, let's do a letter. And now you want the content of the letter is, please invest in this other thing. I mean, a preparation item would be to make sure your other commissioners understand that something's ready to be invested in. And I'm just pointing out that this is why it looks different. I want Oasis Village to be successful. I want this to happen, but I can't sign a piece of paper that says that somebody else should invest in it. I don't know enough about it.
The information is available.
Yeah, but so we don't have it today.
And if you do not know enough to feel comfortable in making that statement, I put the responsibility for that back on you.
Okay. That's fine. So today and Monday afternoon, in preparation for Tuesday, city council meeting, yeah, I'm not going to be comfortable in saying anything about advocating for a specific project.
Yeah.
So then either we come up with some other words, or we maybe don't have a letter.
Yeah. So part of the reason why I was willing to vote in favor of absorbing the additional investment in the Bethlehem Inn project last week was because I believed, or I was led to believe, that we would make a serious effort to engage the city of Redmond in co-investing in additional homeless facilities. And what I'm hearing right now is that we're not actually ready to do that. So I basically was misled last week. That is what I'm hearing right now. And if that's the case, then you certainly have the votes to do whatever you want, and I will remember.
Remember, I want some version of Oasis Village, a low barrier shelter, and the goal is to ask people not to be dispersed camp on a large county parcel. So I could write a letter that says, and I don't know if it'd be the three of us, but what can we do together to empower people to have an opportunity, something like a low barrier shelter, so we can ask folks not to be living in dispersed camping on the east side of Redmond? I mean, that's where I'm at. And I like Oasis Village. I'm not against it, but I don't have the business plan to be able to advocate somebody else to spend money on it.
By the end of their meeting tomorrow, the Redmond City Council will likely have allocated out all of their ARPA funds. So.
And that's good to understand. So you think it's the last moment where money will be available from a pool of dollars,
Yeah.
the federal dollars that are coming through?
Mhm. Yeah.
Good discussion. Any other thoughts on? I mean, do we have a letter, or maybe we don't even have a letter? I don't know.
Hey,
Well,
in case
and-
you don't know, we did allocate the other half for the 88 beds, and to me, that's a use on a cost per bed that's much more reasonable. So happy about that. Hopefully, it's going to open up the end of the month. I think that's great, and yeah, I just.
We're tail end money on Bethlehem Inn. We're
the
mopping up.
critical tail end money.
The total investment on that Bethlehem Inn project is way more than the 900,000 that we're investing. That we're like the kind of closing gap.
2.4 plus 1.3, and we paid the 900 of the 1.3.
And there's additional investment beyond that. I mean, we're helping them. We're the finishing money there. We're on projects like Oasis Village, people are asking us to be foundational investors to help make something happen. Bethlehem Inn is I'm really glad it's going to happen this winter. It was going to happen without us.
Not necessarily. They needed 450,000, and we came through with that.
And they
it
would
is going to open
they
this
would
month.
get it eventually.
So-
They would get it eventually. I'm really glad that again that they are going to be open sooner, but it is a very different scenario coming in at the end of a project and helping to close the deal on something that has a tremendous amount of momentum, because there were others who were there to give it support early on. It's a very different deal. It's a very different situation closing the deal on that versus helping people who are trying to do something new that is needed for our community and coming in on the front end.
Turnkey projects. Originally, when I found out those were going to be available, I actually called Mayor Endicott. Mayor Endicott told me to call Keith Wachowski. So I was at that end of what is it we can do here with the turnkey funding. So it was from the state. Of course, it's our money that went to Salem, and now it's coming back again. And so many times, we never get our fair share. So I'm glad that they got their 2.4 million from the state.
As am I. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that we were there as foundational funders for the project.
I made
Which
a
is what we have
foundational phone call for the project.
If you
So-
think that phone call is the reason that project is happening,
No, I'm
then
just saying
you
that
have
I
a
did do
really
some-
distorted
I did do
understanding of
something,
how things
and I
work.
did something months and months ago about it, and I really think that, okay, this is great. 88 people are going to get off the street. We've got, what, a couple hundred people in East Antler on county land? So we're definitely part of the issue there, and hopefully, because it is high barrier, some of those people will be able to transition back into the world, and we need them.
Okay, thank you very much for making that call. And now you have the opportunity to do something far more catalytic than that, to make something happen.
So I'm trying to figure out, do we have a letter or not at this point in time? I'm thinking we may not even have a letter, and, I mean, I'm supportive of a letter, but if we don't have the same content, we may
Right.
not have a letter. I'd love, there's words in here I'd like to use, but it doesn't sound like anything you want them to spend specific ARPA dollars tomorrow night to pre-fund Oasis Village.
I would really like them to seriously consider it. That
Oh, and they're
specific
they're
project.
seriously considering it because they're struggling, and that's exactly what's going on. So, but as I say, when City of Bend says, we've got a great idea, how about we do the joint committee, joint office of homelessness, and you guys do it. It's kind of offensive about how people come up with ways that we should spend money. And this sounds like the same thing. We've got a great idea of how you spend your money. I'm hesitant to write that letter. I mean, I'm supportive of a letter saying, let's work through this together. But I don't want to refer to this specific project at this time. And I want the Oasis to go. I want to sit down and really help architect a solution. And, I mean, I've been working hard on this also, talking about land and, utilities and where it might go and what's the big picture. But I don't know that it's ready for the investment at this time.
If you have specific ideas of where you want it to go, and those are not are not the places where the Jericho Road folks have actually asked for the land, then I can see how you might feel that it's not ready to go. But if you're willing to work with people where they want to do something, where they have planned for, then I think it's pretty ready to go.
And I am available to talk. I mean, you're saying that I haven't done my homework, but I don't, I mean, where am I supposed to go to get this version of the business plan? I don't have a feel for that.
You can go to the people who wrote it, who have mentioned it.
And I haven't done that before now, so that's my work to do.
Who've mentioned it in the past. And, I mean, we received communications that they are still most interested in the near term in the land that is north of the Opportunity Foundation. As much as the, whole enchilada out, 10 acres out much farther is of potential interest, there's a lot that would have to go into exploring and developing that site. And, to their credit, these folks want to do something now. They want to get some shelter opportunities available to people sooner than later.
Well, I did hear that the 10-acre property, actually, according to what I was told by Tom Anderson, was the cost could be totally prohibitive, but if Medford did have it to do over again, they thought it might be an excellent way to actually develop the program. So with our 10 acres.
At a location like that.
Right. To me, it truly makes sense. You can have this, you can have that, and you're going to have a lot of security, and you're going to have a sprinkler system. So that's one of my...
You gotta just get this all landed in a public meeting. I mean, because there's just lots of information out there.
Yeah.
You're saying if the Jericho Roads Oasis Village is envisioned to be put on 7th Street or whatever it was?
What
The county land? It's like a rock.
asking a group that's been planning this to suddenly plan this and expecting them to turn around and deliver you a proposal for that is completely unrealistic. I mean, they are prepared to build a small, tiny shelter facility.
On county land over on 7th or whatever it's called over there?
Yeah.
See, that's news to me.
They
I thought we were
wrote
moving
they wrote us an email that said that was their that said thank you, but their preference was to go with the near in small facility first and then work on the other thing later. That's not news. I mean, I have electronic documentation.
Well, yeah, so I'm pretty darn clear that either we write a real nice, positive, forward-looking letter, very generic, or we don't write a letter. I mean, now that we've talked this through a little bit.
Well, let's work on the generic, vague letter in the long term. There would be real value in delivering a letter before tomorrow or tomorrow for the issue that the city council needs to deliberate on tomorrow, but it does not sound like we are going to get to that. So we can work on a generic, vague, warm, fuzzy letter long term.
In a future date, you're saying?
Sure.
Okay.
Whatever.
Well, and I mean, now I do kind of feel bad that we're so disconnected, but I'm glad we talked it out here because we, as a board, we don't have opportunity to, just solve the world's problems over lunch. But I mean, this is a situation where it sounds like we're just we don't have the same information. I mean, usually when we have the same information, things start to come in.
We all have access to the same information. It is not, that's not a.
Well, it sounds like I'm getting conflicting information. Because I didn't know we were talking about 7th at all. I mean, that's a rock bowl over there. And I thought we were way beyond that. So if that's Oasis's plan, I'm not even supportive of that. So that's a huge disconnect. So.
I can
yeah.
show you the emails where they asked for that Sound Street property.
Well, but, even if they asked for it, we haven't talked about giving it to them specifically for this purpose. I mean, we might talk about it passing in an executive session, but that's just the topic of that land. So I would, okay. No letter at this time. Thank you very much. Good policy discussion here.
Okay, do you want? The LCDC letter? Yes, so we have the finalized letter to LCDC supporting interim housing on rural lands on the 2021-2023 policy agenda that we've already discussed. This just includes final revisions.
So this is a letter from Deschutes County to DLCD specifically, or LCDC, the commission. Okay, and we've had a copy of it available.
You know, actually, Colleen and I, independently of one another, I believe we're talking about 1,500 homeless in Deschutes County. So we're saying 1,000 here. I know it's way more than 1,000. If we have up to 180 in Sisters in the forest that went from 80, and we've got 150, 200 at China Hat, and 150. There's that number perhaps should go up to 1,500. Now, talking to other people in the community, they're feeling it's even a couple thousand now. So, we're hearing that they're getting sent one-way bus tickets here.
So the one comment saying several counties share a perspective, I just don't have firsthand knowledge of that. I mean, if somebody does, we can use it, but if not, I'd be hesitant to say that.
I understand that Peter Gutowski met with Association of Oregon County, the staff, Mallory Roberts, as well as other counties, and they've discussed this, and through those conversations, he's heard informal support for this concept.
Okay, yeah, so, I mean, I could, and that's fine, I'm not opposed to that statement, I just think I don't have the firsthand knowledge of it, kind of implied. Are we supportive of a letter like this?
In terms of the numbers, was that a suggestion that we
move it to 1,500 from 1,000?
I think we can say over 1,000, but I would be hesitant to use data that's not substantiated.
Yeah, but the count is in January, which is an incredibly,
we can use,
over.
The point in time data from the last count is, was just recently kind of certified or approved. So I think we could say over 1,000, but I don't want to say stuff that is that we don't have the data to back up.
I support more than or over 1,000. So I think it reads appropriately as presented then. Is there support for this letter?
Wonderful.
Okay.
Can't wait to sign it. Thank you very much. Whitney and Nick.
Thank you.
Is there a motion then?
So moved signatures for the letter to Robin MacArthur and Jim Rue for DLCD.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Okay, 3 letters, good, thank you. Well, 2 of the 3 letters, all set. Thank you very much, yeah.
We flunked.
Is there anything else?
Commissioners,
I consider the one a negative, actually.
Yeah, went backwards.
against our
So
-1.
So let's, another statement on that. I mean, it's like there's a lot of effort and momentum, and now I'm missing some stuff. So, I would extrapolate some of the stuff you said, but I don't have it. When you're saying the specific location and the specific business plan, I'm not advocating in reference to that.
I'll get it for you.
It's more generic.
I'll get it for you.
I'm apologizing for not being on more we didn't have more information for us even to be on the same page here. So we'll work on that. I'm just saying, I'm offering that. Making sure we have the same information when we're making decisions. And we can ask our administrator to keep us up to speed.
after the city has already expended the remainder of their ARPA funds. It's
Commissioners, when you're finished with other items, if we can have a brief executive session on personnel matters, and I've coordinated with Dave on that, the notice, but that's when you're prepared, if we can have that.
Is there anything else?
I just report that, well, I'm guessing all three of us made it to the Wall That Heals exhibit. I got there on Friday, and was very impressed by the by the whole package exhibit that they put together, and really appreciated the very detailed historical context that they provided for that period of American history. I'd also mention that I went to the cleanup at 17th Street yesterday in
Great.
Redmond. So got to see a little bit more firsthand of what the situation is on 17th Street and on all of that county property that sits to the east of there.
Great, good experience, and I've done that in the past, too. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, so I was going back through my calendar, and that's exactly the last thing. So that was Friday night. I was able to go to the Wall That Heals also. About 6 o'clock, we got there for the flag lowering ceremony, and we were there for a while. So the folks manning it were very proud and very pleased that that facility set up there. It was statewide significance. There's people from around the state that have showed up at the Wall That Heals. It's got some good coverage, but it's pretty valuable in these challenging times, having it really here. Also, the Made in Redmond tour on Friday morning, 3 companies. It was exciting seeing the companies, very proud of their businesses. The Audio Rooms company, I guess I shouldn't get specific about all the named companies, but the excitement in the room was just, you could feel it. Each one of these companies are growing. Their business models have had to evolve during these times, but it is really exciting to see the economic activity and pride in the, Made in Redmond tour, and there's Made in Bend tour also put on by EDCO, but the one in Redmond was real exciting on Friday. And yeah, it looks like that's the last stuff to report on since our last board meeting.
Okay, and wall number 43, I got to find David Clark, who was from Hepner, and whose dad taught my mother and myself. David's family, it was horrible. He died. I think he was in Vietnam for 3 months. Died, and his parents got a divorce. What a horribly devastating, impactful change to their family after that happened. It breaks your heart. His mom is buried by him in Hepner at the cemetery. I actually walked by his headstone one time. So when you get to see that, and I just did a plaque for David and my father-in-law, who was a prisoner of war for 2.5 years and was a career Air Force. So in Bend. So I'm looking forward to, hopefully on November 11th, those 2 plaques will be brought in to the Heroes Garden. So yeah, David will never be forgotten because he is from Hepner. Mm-hmm. And yeah, what a tragedy. And actually with Afghanistan, just the leaving Afghanistan so visually similar to leaving Vietnam, I felt like the wall was such a healing moment and an acknowledgement for all those people that were so poorly treated when they returned to America. So it was really wonderful. I'm so proud of Lapine and them bringing the wall. It was,
Well, we helped sponsor it also.
Yeah, I know, that's okay.
Yeah,
It's
no,
definitely
wonderful.
worth it.
A lot of pride.
A lot of healing,
Yes.
and I think that's, in today's world, really important.
Anything else? Okay, I think that's it for other items.